They told us that money was simple, that it was based on gold, that it was backed by something, that if you worked hard, saved wisely, and played by the rules, you'd be safe. That's what they told us, but they lied. The truth is, the money system, as we know it, is one of the greatest illusions ever created. It's a system built not on value, but on belief, on manipulation, on control. And most people have no idea how it actually works or who really benefits from it, because that's the way the system was designed to be misunderstood, to keep people trapped in cycles of debt and labor, while those at the top create wealth out of nothing. Let's start with the basics. What is money? Most people will say money is a representation of value. It's something you earn for your labor, something you exchange for goods and services. But in reality, modern money doesn't represent value at all. It represents debt. Every dollar, every rupee, every euro in existence today was created as a loan. That's right, true money isn't created by governments, it's created by banks. And not just any banks, private, central banks. Owned or controlled by people you've never heard of. It's unanswerable to no democratic process. When you walk into a bank and take out a loan, whether for a car, a house, or a business, the bank doesn't hand you someone else's money. They don't move funds from a vault. They simply create the money out of thin air by typing numbers into a computer. That money didn't exist until you signed the loan. It was literally conjured. This is called fractional reserve banking. It means banks are only required to keep a fraction of their deposits on hands, sometimes as low as 0 to 10%. The rest, they're allowed to lend out, over and over, multiplying it as they go.
So when you deposit $1,000 into your account,
the bank can lend out $900 of it to someone else. That $900 goes into another account, and then 90% of that gets lent out again. The cycle continues. The result? That original mayuan 10 becomes mayuan 10. It's $10,000, even $15,000 in the system. It's money created from nothing. It's backed by nothing.
Action!
Except your belief that it has value. Now imagine this system operating at a global scale. Central banks like the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, and others have the power to create trillions with a keystroke. And they do. When governments need money, whether to fund wars, build infrastructure, or bail out corporations, they borrow from central banks. And those banks simply create the money, adding to the national debt. The government promises to pay it back with interest. But where does the money to pay the interest come from? More borrowing, more debt. This is the trap. Every dollar created is born in debt. There's always more owed than exists. The system is never designed to be balanced. It's designed to expand forever, or collapse. And collapse it will, because infinite growth in a finite world is impossible. But while you work harder, pay taxes, and save money that loses value every year, those at the top use the system differently. They don't save money. They don't live off wages. They use debt to create assets. They borrow at near zero interest, buy up real estate stocks. Companies then inflate their value using the same cheap money they control. When things go bad, the government bails them out with your tax dollars. When things go well, they take the profits. You take the risks. It's not capitalism, it's financial feudalism. In 1971, the last shred of real value was removed from the system. That was the year the US officially ended the gold standard. Before that, you could exchange dollars for gold. After that, money became completely fiat, meaning it has no intrinsic value. It's just paper or pixels with government issued trust behind it. And what backs that trust? Military power. Global dominance, the petrodollar. You see, after gold was removed, the US made a secret deal with Saudi Arabia. The Saudis agreed to sell oil exclusively in US dollars. In return, America promised military protection. This forced the world to buy dollars to buy oil. That's why it's called the petrodollar system. And it's what gives the dollar its dominance, even though it's based on nothing. But even this is starting to crack. Nations like China, Russia, and others are building trade systems outside of the dollar. They're stockpiling gold, They're building their own digital currencies. Because they know, just like the architects of the current system, know that the dollar is not eternal, that trust in paper can only last so long. When it fades, the collapse will be swift. Hyperinflation, currency wars, bank failures. It's already happened in places like Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Lebanon, Argentina, but it can happen anywhere. You might think, but that's why we have central banks, to control inflation, to stabilize the economy. That's the lie. Central banks don't prevent crises, they cause them. It's by manipulating interest rates, by flooding markets with easy money, by encouraging reckless risk-taking, and when the bubbles pop, they print even more money, devaluing yours in the process. They call it quantitative easing, stimulus, recovery. But it's a silent tax. Transfer of wealth. Every time they print, the rich get richer. The poor lose purchasing power, and no one votes for this. No one approves this. It just happens, because central banks are not public institutions. The Federal Reserve, for example, is a private bank. Its meetings are secret. Its shareholders are unknown. It is above the law. And yet it controls the most powerful currency on earth. This isn't democracy, it's debtocracy, ruled by the creators of money and the education system. It doesn't teach this. Is created. It doesn't show the flaws in the system, because an informed population would question it, would resist it, demand change. Instead, we're taught to get a job, take loans, buy a house, save for retirement. But the house is bought with debt. The retirement funds are gambled on manipulated markets. And the job. It pays wages that are taxed before you even see them. Meanwhile, capital gains, corporate loopholes, and offshore accounts let the ultra-rich grow their wealth tax-free. You play by the rules. They write the rules. And this system depends on your silence, your obedience, your faith in money. That has no value. Faith in a system that steals from you, faith in a future that's already been sold, but cracks are appearing. People are waking up. The rise of alternative currencies, crypto, gold, silvers, not a trend. It's a reaction, a rebellion, sign that the lie is unraveling. That people are tired of being pawns in a game they never agreed to play. Because once you understand the money system is a lie, everything else makes sense. Why nations go to war, why poverty never ends, why prices rise even when productivity increases. Why? Governments are always in debt no matter how much they tax. The answer is simple. The system is designed that way. It's designed to keep you chasing, working, owing, never owning. And the ones who benefit don't need to oppress you with force. They just control the currency, the media, the education, the laws. You won't revolt. You'll refinance. You won't question. You'll budget. You won't resist. You'll adapt. That's the genius of it. A prison without bars. A lie that looks like freedom. And until we expose it, until we break it, until we build something new, the cycle continues. Debt rises, wealth concentrates, empires fall, and a new lie is born. The deeper you go, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just a broken system, it's a rigged one. It doesn't fail by accident. Succeeds by design, just not for you. Because this money system wasn't built to make you free. It was built to make you compliant, not prosperous. It's just productive enough to keep it running. And the way it keeps running is through one thing above all: debt. Debt isn't a side effect. It's the fuel. Every time a loan is made, new money is created. Every time you swipe your credit card or apply for a mortgage, the banks expand their empire. Not with gold, not with labor, but with interest. Interest that compounds. Interest that binds. This is why you're encouraged to go to college and take on massive loans at 18. Why you're offered credit cards before you've earned your first paycheck. Why car loans, home loans, personal loans are easier to get than access to clean water in some parts of the world. Because once you owe the system, you serve the system. You wake up, you go to work. and you pay back money that never existed before your signature created it. And the longer you pay, the more the banks profit. Not from producing anything of real value, but from owning the terms of your survival. And who runs this debt empire? It's not just your local bank, not even your national bank, but a global financial network so interconnected, so vast, and so opaque that no single person truly understands it. Hedge funds, investment banks, credit rating agencies, private equity firms, insurance conglomerates, shadow banking systems and entities that trade money like weapons and use people like poker chips. These aren't producers. They're extractors. Parasites dressed as saviors. They use complex instruments like derivatives, credit default swaps, collateralized debt obligations. The language is complicated on purpose, so you never ask what it means. Because if you knew what they were really doing, you'd understand how close we are to the edge. In 2008, the system nearly collapsed. Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, AI, G-icons of finance grumbled under the weight of their own lies. Billions of dollars were lost, lives were ruined, homes were seized. But what happened to the people who caused it? They were bailed out. They got bonuses because in this system, failure is only punished at the bottom. If you're small and broke, you're reckless. Ow. If you're big and broke, you're too big to fail. And the bigger you are, the more dangerous your failure becomes. To everyone else, so they let you keep playing. They let you keep gambling. Because the entire system depends on the illusion that the casino can't collapse. But it can. And it will. Because the debt isn't just personal anymore. It's national. It's planetary. Countries owe more money than exists. The US debt alone is over $34 trillion and climbing fast. Global debt is over $300 trillion. Think about that. $300 trillion owed in a system where the money only exists if someone goes deeper into debt and no one knows how to unwind it. Because if you raise interest rates, you crash the economy. If you lower them, you fuel inflation. If you print more money, you devalue everything. If you stop printing, the market panics. It's a dead end. A hall of mirrors. And every solution leads to a deeper problem. Meanwhile, inflation eats away at your savings. Quietly, invisibly. That $100 you had in 2000, it buys half as much today. Prices go up. Your wage stays the same. The official inflation numbers are manipulated. The basket of goods they use changes. Truth is hidden. Because if you knew how fast your purchasing power was evaporating, you might ask questions. You might demand something better. So they distract you instead with celebrity drama, fake politics, shallow debates, anything to keep your eyes off the real game. And in the real game, the players aren't elected. They're appointed. Central bankers, IMF officials, World Bank directors, Federal Reserve chairmen, people with no mandate from the people, people who don't answer to the public, people who decide the fate of entire economies with a speech, a rate hike, a press release. They meet in secret, speak in riddles. They smile as markets burn. And when they need more tools, they just invent them. Quantitative easing, negative interest rates, yield curve control. It's fancy names for desperate measures. But they always have one goal: protect the system. Not you, not your family. It's not your dreams. The system. That's why when banks fail, governments rush to save them. But when you fail, when you lose your job, your home, your health, they offer thoughts and prayers. Maybe a stimulus check if you're lucky. Maybe a loan with interest. Maybe a delay in payments. But not a forgiveness, because forgiveness is for them. For the top. For the too big to fail. You pay, and if you can't pay, they'll take everything. Your house, your car, your freedom. Try not paying your taxes. Try missing too many loan payments. See how free you really are. This isn't capitalism. It's financial tyranny. And at the core of it is a lie. The lie that money is wealth. Digits in an account mean you're secure. But money isn't wealth. Money is a claim, a promise, a contract. And contracts can be broken. Inflation breaks them. Bank closures break them. Currency resets break them. Ask the people of Cyprus, who woke up one morning in 2013 to find their bank accounts frozen. Ask the people of India, who watched entire currency denominations vanish overnight in 2016. Ask the people of Argentina, Lebanon, Turkey, where inflation destroys savings faster than people can spend. Ask the victims of every hyperinflation, every currency collapse, every debt trap. They'll tell you the truth. Money is only real until it isn't. So what is real? It's what actually has value. Not paper, not credit, not digits. Real value comes from what you can control. Your skills. Health, your relationships, your food, your energy, your shelter, your sovereignty. And increasingly, people are waking up to this. That's why cryptocurrencies exploded. Not because Bitcoin is perfect, but because people are looking for an exit. A system outside the control of central banks. A store of value that can't be printed into worthlessness. That's why gold and silver never go away. They're ancient, physical, independent. They don't rely on trust. They are trust, and that's why more and more people are rejecting the narrative. They're ditching the rat race, building parallel economies, bartering, growing food, buying land, learning skills, claiming independence from a system that was never built for them. Because the real revolution won't be televised. It won't be approved by the institutions. It won't come from voting or petitions or hashtags. It will come from millions of people quietly stepping out, unplugging, rebuilding from the ground up, not with violence, but with truth. Because once you see the money system for what it is, lie wrapped in complexity, you can never unsee it. Stop trusting the narrative. You stop obeying this illusion. You start asking questions they don't want you to ask. Why does a bank get to create money, but I don't? Why is my labor taxed, but speculation is rewarded? Why are food, housing, and medicine unaffordable, while the stock market hits records? Why do central banks own more than countries? Why do we call this freedom? The truth is, we were born into a con, a beautiful, elaborate, highly sophisticated scam. I mean, the only way to escape it is to see it, because when you see it, you start to act differently. You stop playing their game. You start building your own. If money is the biggest illusion ever created, then banks are the magicians. But they don't use sleight of hand. They use trust, blind, generational trust. Because if enough people believe something has value, it doesn't till it doesn't. That's the dangerous magic trick behind fiat currency. It works. Right up until it debts, and when it breaks, it doesn't break slowly, it collapses. Throughout history, we've seen this cycle play out again and again. From the Roman denarius to the Weimar mark, to the Zimbabwean dollar currencies that once held power and prestige reduced to worthless scraps. Not because of war, not because of invasion, but because of debt, devaluation, and delusion. Because empires don't just fall from enemies at the gate. They rot from within financially long before the final blow is struck. And yet, every time a system collapses, a new one rises. But not by the people. By the same class who designed the last system, because control of money equals control of the people, and that control is never surrendered, it's only reinvented. This time, the reinvention is digital, in the wake of economic chaos. In the ashes of lost trust, they will offer a solution. A sleek, secure, stable system. Convenient, paperless, controlled. It will be branded as innovation. It will be sold as progress. It will look like salvation. But it will come with conditions. Central bank digital currencies. Programmable money. Every transaction visible. Every dollar traceable. Every wallet tied to identity. They'll call it safety. But it's surveillance. They'll call it efficiency. But it's enslavement. Because when money becomes code, it can be controlled like code. Shut off, expired, restricted. If your behavior isn't compliant, your wallet gets paused. If your social score drops, your spending limits shrink. If your political views don't align, your access vanishes. You won't need a prison, won't need chains. You'll be locked in by infrastructure. Imagine this future. Your paycheck arrives in your government-issued digital wallet, but it can only be spent on approved goods. It expires if not used in 30 days. Travel outside your city, not allowed. Carbon footprint is too high. Buy too much meat, your token won't work. Violates health policy. Donate to the wrong cause. Expect a visit. And if you think that's fiction, look around. China already has a social credit system. Pilot CBDCs are running in dozens of countries. So the groundwork is laid, the infrastructure is being built, and the only thing missing, is a crisis big enough to justify it. Crises are not obstacles to this system, they are opportunities. Opportunities to expand control under the guise of rescue. Economic collapse, cyber attack, a massive bank failure. Any of these can trigger the reset. And in the confusion, in the fear, the people will accept it. Not because they want to, because they won't know what else to do. They'll beg for order. They'll trade liberty for convenience. And just like that, the illusion resets. A new system, a new digital lie. Built on the ruins of the last one, but the faces behind it remain the same. The central banks, unelected elites, financial institutions too big to fail, too powerful to regulate. These are not saviors. They are architects of collapse. And they will keep building towers on quicksand because they never stand on the ground with you. They float above it all. It's untouchable, unaccountable, and yet they need you. They need your compliance, your labor, your belief. Without your belief, the system dies. That's the secret. They're terrified of you waking up, of you unplugging, of you pulling back the curtain. Because if enough people see the truth, the system doesn't bend, it breaks. That's why financial education is almost non-existent in schools. That's why basic economics is buried in complexity. That's why they train generations to follow, not to question. Because an educated population is dangerous. A population that understands debt slavery doesn't ask for more credit. A population that understands fiat currency is theft doesn't beg for bailouts. A population that sees inflation as a tax doesn't vote for more printing, so they keep you busy with bills, busy with distractions, busy with survival. Because people in survival mode don't rebel. They don't resist, they comply. But something is changing. Cracks are forming. The internet, for all its flaws, has revealed too much. People are talking, learning, connecting, asking questions they weren't supposed to ask. Why do banks get bailed out but I don't? Why does the government always owe more than it takes? Why do the rich get richer while I work harder for less? And most of all, why is the cost of living rising while the value of everything I own shrinks? These are not just financial questions. They're existential ones. Because if money is fake, what else is? If the system is a lie, what else have they lied about? And once you start asking those questions, you begin to see the cage, invisible walls, the silent rules, the soft tyranny, and then you realize the only way out is reclaiming sovereignty. Real sovereignty doesn't come from elections. It doesn't come from protests. It comes from disconnection, from refusal, from building parallel paths. That means holding real value, owning real assets, building real skills, supporting real communities, not depending on the system, replacing it. Because the collapse is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. History doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes. And we are in the final verses of a very old song. A song of empires that overreached, of currencies that crumbled, of people who finally said, enough. And the system fears that moment. The moment you stop believing, the moment you stop obeying, the moment you take back your time, your mind, your money, because then the illusion ends. And all that's left is the truth. That freedom isn't granted, it's taken. And the first step to freedom is seeing the lie. Because once you see it, you can't go back. You stop trusting the dollar, the bank, the system. You start trusting yourself. You learn how to grow food, fix things, trade skills, build networks, protect your energy, save outside the system, think outside the system. And slowly, piece by piece, you become uncontrolled. Not through anger, but through awareness. Not through violence, but through value. You understand that freedom isn't the absence of laws, it's the presence of choices, and the money system was built to remove your choices one transaction at a time. But now, you have a choice. You can wait for the collapse. Or you can prepare for the rebirth. You can defend the system. You can build a better one. But the clock is ticking, and the truth is no longer hidden. The illusion is cracking. Slowly at first, then all at once. Signs are everywhere. Bank closures without warning. Inflation that doesn't match your paycheck. Digital systems that track everything. Financial headlines written in a language that no one really understands. These aren't just technical problems. They're warning signs. Glitches in the matrix. It's hints that the story we've been told about money, wealth, and freedom is no longer holding together. But while the public debates interest rates and tax brackets, something far more dangerous is happening in silence. Behind closed doors, in private boardrooms, and algorithmic trading floors, the architects of the next system are already at work. Because the goal was never to fix the current one, it was to replace it with something even more controlled, even more centralized, even more profitable for them. And so, we are being ushered, step by step, into a world where money no longer means ownership, but permission. Where wealth is no longer earned, but granted by the system under its terms. Not because it works better for people, because it works better for power. This is the real purpose behind central bank digital currencies, not just to digitize cash, but to rebuild the entire architecture of value, trust, and control. Programmable money, everything changes. Imagine a future where your money can only be spent on approved products, where your daily carbon allowance limits your travel, where dissent is not punished with jail, but with a frozen wallet. No arrests, no protests, no violence. It's just silence, compliance, obedience. It sounds like science fiction, but it's already happening. Nations around the world are testing digital currencies, linking them to digital IDs, tying them into behavioral data. The infrastructure is here. The only thing missing is the moment of crisis. Because crises create obedience, and when the time comes, it's the same people who caused the collapse will appear as saviors. They'll tell you the banks failed, but this system is safe, they'll say. Inflation destroyed your savings, but this one is stable, they'll promise. The old system was unfair, but this one is equal. And millions will believe them. Not because it's true, but because the alternative is chaos. But the truth is, the alternative is already here, quietly, growing beneath the surface. A counter-economy, a resistance. A parallel system built not on manipulation, but on transparency. Not on debt, but on value. Not on control, but on choice. It begins with knowledge. It's understanding how money is created, how debt is weaponized, how inflation robs you silently. When you understand this, you stop playing their game. Start asking better questions. You stop saving fiat. Start saving in things that last. Gold, silver, crypto, land, skills. Things that don't vanish when a central bank flips a switch. Then comes community. You realize that no one escapes alone, so you connect, you trade, you share. You build networks of value that don't rely on banks or government approval. A farmer trades with a mechanic. A coder helps a teacher. Real value. Exchanged with real trust. Then comes sovereignty. You take back control over your time, your energy, your food, your health. You grow something, you fix something, you sell something. You build something. You don't wait to be rescued. You become your own economy. You become dangerous not because you fight, but because you no longer depend. This is the path forward. It's not revolution, but evolution. Not noise, but action. Not rage, but responsibility. Because the system only works as long as you feed it. When you stop feeding it, it starts starving. When enough people unplug, the machine grinds to a halt. Not because of violence, it's because of irrelevance. You see, the most powerful act of rebellion today is not to burn the system down. It's to walk away from it. To expose its lies. To refuse its traps. To build something better in plain sight. While the old system cannibalizes itself, this doesn't mean abandoning technology, it means using it with intent. It means choosing open networks over closed ones, privacy over surveillance, decentralization over central control. It means seeing beyond convenience and recognizing the cost of handing over your autonomy, because in the future, they are building. Your autonomy is the final price, and so the choice is now, not in 10 years, not when the dollar finally dies, when the next crisis hits. Now, while there's still time, while there's still room to prepare, while you still have the strength to decide your path instead of having it assigned to you. Look around. Everything you were taught about money is being rewritten. You were told to save, but saving fiat is a slow death. You were told to work harder, but labor is taxed, while wealth is protected. You were told to trust the system was never built for you, so stop listening, start learning, start building. Your freedom will not come from a bailout. It will not come from a vote. It will not come from a central bank. It will come from you. From the moment you stop trusting the paper and start trusting your mind. From the day you stop chasing status and start chasing truth. From the second you realize that you are not just a number, a taxpayer, a debtor. You are the foundation of a new system, one that values integrity over interest, ownership over debt, freedom over fear. And no, it won't be easy. Nothing worth building ever is. But it will be worth it, because the alternative is clear. The path they've laid out for you is a digital cage, a world where every purchase is monitored, every movement tracked, every decision scored. They will offer you convenience in exchange for control. They will offer you safety in exchange for freedom. They will offer you digital dollars in exchange. For your soul, say no. Say yes to sovereignty, to truth, to responsibility, to something real. The money system is a lie. It always was. But lies only have power if you believe them. Stop believing. Start building.